All right, it's been a little while since I've reviewed a series. I really like doing that, so let's do a new one. Night of the Demons. I have seen all of these before, but this is the only one that I truly remember because it is a classic. So, I will be watching Night of the Demons 2, 3, and the remake soon. I remember them okay, but it's been so long that it'll be honestly like a first view for me. Now, this movie is a classic, this first one here. So, there's really little I can say that hasn't been said before. It's hard to review a movie like this. This is why I'm hesitant on reviewing something like the Halloween series or something like that, where it's like, I'm not going to review Halloween. Like, what the hell has not been said about Halloween by this point? I mean, I have a love for it, so since I was 5 years old, I guess I could tell more of an intimate story of my association with it. I guess that's really the only thing you can say left of these classic movies. This is a movie I haven't seen a ton, for sure, maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. Rewatching it, it's just as good as always. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie for some reason, this movie is about a bunch of kids that blow off the dance. They are invited to a party at Hull House that's being hosted by Angela. She is the weird girl in school who everyone thinks is a witch or practices witchcraft of some sort. They get there and she performs a ritual of some sort and it unleashes demons, so they have a night of demons, and obviously they can't get out of the house. I mean, just right off the bat, this movie has an awesome animated opening with fantastic music, just sets the tone, sets the mood right away. You know you're watching 80s goodness. And then to further, punch it home that you're watching 80s as fuck movies, Linnea Quigley, the Scream Queen of Scream Queens, Trash from Return of the Living Dead herself, and she has one of the most infamous scenes involving lipstick and a nipple. If you haven't seen this movie, it's definitely going to catch you off guard. If you have seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And no matter when you saw this movie, I don't care how long it's been. I remember I was talking to someone years ago, and they were like, I saw this movie, and the lips and the nipple. And I was just like, everyone remembers that part, because it's like, what the fuck? This movie reminds me a decent amount of Return of the Living Dead. Not just because of Linnea, but just the characterizations, the very punk look to everybody, the feel of the movie, the characters, everything about it. There's a lot of it that feels like that. Now, this is not a zombie movie. So I'm not saying it's the same movie by any means. It doesn't even have the same plot, but it has a very similar feel to it. A more recent movie that actually is a very similar story and definitely feels like it is just a blatant homage to this movie, and I highly recommend it, is a movie called The Convent. Adrienne Barbeau shows up in it for a short amount of time. She's not a main character, but it's cool to see her in it. I love that movie. I love it, I love it, I love it. If you haven't seen The Convent and you love Night of the Demons, check it out. You should absolutely adore it as well. I really like, all the characters are just great. They're so ridiculous. And I think that freaking Stooge is just hilarious. I mean, the shit he says, the shit he gets away with saying to women is absurd. I love how unrealistic these movies are and not caring at all. Just like, fuck it. Just let him say whatever. and everyone's reactions are totally not realistic in the slightest. But that's okay. I mean, this movie isn't trying to be realistic in any way, shape, or form. This also has some great music in it. Not just the score, but the music. It's got a very punk rock soundtrack. Yet another thing that makes it seem more like Return of the Living Dead. That's why I'm saying this has a very Return of the Living Dead feel to it. I love Angela's dance that she puts on. I think that was really sexy and cool and well shot and well lit. And it's just an iconic scene for me. Rewatching it reminded me of it. And I was like, oh man, I do love this scene. I think that the practical effects in this movie are really impressive for the time and for the budget, because there's a lot of practical effects that can't be hidden by clothing or by other things like that, where a lot of the times you'll have cheap practical effects that are hidden by a shirt, by pants, by shoes, whatever. And a lot of this is just like open skin practicals, like a guy's like missing an arm and he's shirtless. So it's not like they just tucked his arm behind his back and put a shirt over it and pushed his arm back as far as they could so it wouldn't look like he had an arm. The dude is shirtless and he's missing an arm and it looks great. And Linnea has a scene where she's topless and it's clearly a practical effect in her boobs. But I mean, it looks very, very realistic. You can tell it's off a little, especially if you know the scene's coming. But I was really impressed by the fact that their practicals weren't hidden by anything. And they really, really worked. I mean, that's crazy impressive. So, I just love this movie. I say it every time. Like, I keep notes. And I have nothing written in the negatives. I couldn't find anything that I disliked about this movie. I mean, yes, I've seen it a bunch of times before. It's got a nostalgia factor. Are there flaws to it? Sure. But this is just 80s goodness from beginning to end. I had a blast rewatching this. This is a movie that just never seems to get old. So, hell yeah. For some reason, as I said, if you have not seen this movie and you're crazy into these ridiculous, absurd 80s horror flicks, demons, possession, kids getting drunk, trying to all fuck each other, blatant disregard for morality or any goddamn thing, this is one to check out. And I'm going to talk spoilers really super quick because I want to. So here's the spoilers if you haven't seen this. All right. The black guy lives!